What is up, YouTube? Welcome back. Aeneas here. It's time for the Monday meta update again, and we have some good news for you fans out there who are sick of the meta. The meta is once again changing again. There's some new mono white decks out there that are doing very well and beating black pretty consistently and beating up on some of the control decks in the format, stuff like that. And so Untapped.gg is showing that mono white aggro is actually the top performing deck on the ladder right now, especially in best of one. And yeah, so if you're a big fan of best of one, you should check out mono white. It says aggro. It's kind of aggro, but also has some mid game plan with things like Anointed Peacekeeper and Adeline, and then you end up with the angel that brings back your 3-drops. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting list. The win rate of mono white in general is 59.6%, so that is really huge. That is like much higher than mono black was. You know, Gruul and mono black and mono blue are below that, with good win rates, 55%, 57% for Gruul. So it's showing that aggro is really starting to, as it gets more honed down and more tight knit, it's coming to the top and beating out these slower mid-range decks, these control decks, things like that. So mono white aggro, Gruul aggro seem like the choice to pick for your standard laddering at least, and maybe your standard events. And until some deck comes along that beats them, they're gonna be the top choice right now. All right, and then besides Untapped.gg, we've had really only one good-sized tournament happen over the weekend for Standard, and the winner from that one is a mono blue player. So congrats to them. And it looks like a very similar list to the one that won last week. So mono blue still doing well. Mono black doing second place with Gruul and Sultai. Sultai is a new interesting one. Basically, it's kind of like a control deck, but it has the Shakedown Heavy to get you value and to be just a beater, and Toxrill and Titan of Industry to kind of help you against the aggro matchups, to clear out the board, stuff like that. It gets you a lot of value. So very interesting new change of the pace here with the Sultai tempo deck. Very interesting to see how they're just kind of playing these value rampy things and then getting up to these big giant creatures that are just hard to deal with. So yeah, the people are still innovating, trying new things. Tournament wise though, mono blue seems pretty strong. It's won the last few tournaments. Mono black is certainly not weak, but it's not winning things, and it's also not doing as well on the ladder. So I think it's safe to say mono black is not the top deck anymore. We have these other decks that are very much beating it easily. Alright, and then I looked at some of the decks that Wizards of the Coast has put out there as like doing well on the ladder. And one interesting one was this one that had Hullbreaker and Jin Kataxis as the top end, and Invoke Despair, Soul Transfer, Fading Hope, stuff like this. So basically, it's a control list with blue for the Hullbreaker and Jin Kataxis and some of these protections, and you're just trying to kill everything and then eventually get out your Hullbreaker or get out your Jin and just win the game from there because you shut down the opponent. So that one's kind of cool. The rest are pretty standard: green, white, enchantments, the mono black, Esper, all that kind of stuff. So nothing else really special there. All right, for historic, we've got Izzet Wizards is still doing well. Azorius Affinity also moving up a little bit to the number 2 spot. And then we see actually mono red aggro has moved up as well in the win rates. I think people are starting to play Goblins again, and it seems like Goblins is doing better than just the normal mono red that a lot of people were playing. So this might be a combination of the two, I would assume, is some mono red, some Goblins together. And then Selesnya Life Gain is coming in 4th, so it actually passed Elves. Last time we looked, I believe Elves was above that one. So yeah, life gain is doing well. And I know there's also this new, or not new, but more people are playing this Selesnya Humans deck, which has some life gain synergies as well. And so maybe that's contributed to part of why it's moved up a little bit on the standings. All right. But yeah, Historic is pretty open. I mean, everything is, there's a lot of decks that have a good win rate. Wizards is good. Auras, 5-color Reanimator, Affinity, Goblins, Mono Red, you know, Azor's Control. So many options. Even the one I put out there, the Grixis list. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. It does great against all these top decks. So if you want to try something new, you can check that one out. And then there was a small historic tournament over the weekend. Nothing big, but taken down by Mono Red Goblins, and second place was, or I guess tied for first, was Selesnya Humans. So both those decks are good, still strong, as we saw in the ladder. You know, they have pretty good win rates, almost 58%, stuff like that. So both those good choices. Definitely something to try if you're interested in that sort of thing. And then, yeah, just nothing super special from Wizards about that. Just kind of the same deck list. But if you want to find a deck list for one of those decks, this is a place you can go to check that out. Check out the Magic Wizards historic ranked deck lists, and you can see some of those. All right, and not to have any spoilers, but there was a big tournament over this weekend, the Arena Championships. It was an alchemy tournament, so I know a lot of people aren't that invested in alchemy, but it was a pretty big event with a lot of pros involved, lots of different contenders as well, and interesting alchemy decks. My personal stance on alchemy, it's kind of fun to shake up the meta when standard gets stale, but currently alchemy itself is pretty dang stale. And it's also very expensive to kind of get into if you haven't already invested some into it. Every now and then they'll have events that help you kind of build up your collection of alchemy, but if they don't have that event going on, it's kind of expensive. So yeah, I won't cover it too much, but anyway, if you're interested, check out the Arena Championship coverage from the official channel. And just to talk about some of the decks people were doing well with on the event in MTG Arena, the qualifier event. Shota Yasuoka, he had a Esper mid-range deck that people were doing very well with, which has the super broken card Diviner of Fates in it, and also Leziel is very good too, a very strong card. So he took advantage of that. Tasha is also another very strong card that is an alchemy. So lots of these alchemy only cards are very, very powerful, and so his deck is quite strong, and lots of people were having success in the qualifier with that. And then the other one was this one from Sam Roll. Sorry, PH. Sam Rolf. He had a Rakdos list that used the Deadly Dispute, Only Call Anvil, and the Sanguine Brushstroke, which creates a Blood Artisan, I think it's called. So yeah, this is very strong. Onicult works very well with it. Deadly Dispute, of course, synergizes well with it. So it's just a very, very heavy sacrifice synergy deck, and was doing very well in the alchemy format. So if the event is still going when you see this, you can check it out and give it a shot. Otherwise, if you want, you can check out that coverage. As I mentioned, they have the Japanese and the English coverage of that on the main channel. But yeah, that's kind of it for the update on alchemy, at least. And that's it also for the Monday metagame update. So it seems like, you know, standard is not solved still. There's still new changes with mono white, and also some other decks people are trying, like Soul Tie, stuff like that. So if you want to try something new, check those out. As far as historic, it's still as wide and open as ever. Wizards, Azorius Affinity, and Goblins are doing the best right now. Seems like, yeah, Goblins kind of had a resurgence, so if you're a big Goblin fan, then now's your time to shine. And yeah, and I already mentioned the alchemy stuff. So anyway, that's it for the update. Go out there, have some fun, try new decks on ladder. Don't get bogged down by the stale meta. And yeah, until next time, see ya.